Hi guys, I hope you're doing absolutely amazing so far. Welcome to this video where we'll talk about gestures that involves basic gestures and advanced gestures. We'll talk about context menu as well. So let's get started. So we'll start with understanding basic gestures like tap, long press, and then we'll talk about the advanced gestures like drag, magnifications, where basically we are zooming in, zooming out, and rotation gesture. And then finally, we'll talk about the long press context menu. That is, when you long press on UI view, you will get a context menu or simply a menu with some options. So let's get started. These are fairly easy and straightforward to understand. So let's start with the basic gesture example. Here, the setup is quite simple. We have the structure, we're calling it in the preview. And here we will be running our gesture and context menu examples. Now, basic gesture is tap and long press. For that, we use onTapGesture, which is something we have seen a couple of times in previous videos. And a new one is onLongPressGesture. And so this is our basic gestures example where we have a state property message. And that is what we are mentioning in the text, which says tap or long press me. And we can see it here. It has some padding and a background color, blue with opacity and corner radius. And we have our on tap gesture and on long press gesture. So on tap gesture, when you tap on it, it will change the text of the message, which is our state property. That basically means the change will reflect in the text. And when it comes to on long press gesture, it is also going to change the text of the message state property, and it will reflect when the view is getting refreshed. So the text will appear in the message here, and that is it. Very simple, straightforward. Let's try it. So I'm gonna tap or just give a quick click, and it will change the title of our text as to the tabbed, which is right here. And that change happens in the state property, and it will update our complete view, and that basically is the text with the message. Now if I do a long press, so I will tap and keep a hold on to it for about a second, and it will change the text to long pressed. So I'm gonna tap, hold, and it will change. Now I can release it, and it will change the title or the text of the message, and that's what we are that is what we are seeing right now, and that is how simple it is. It's very straightforward. Now if I'll it will again change it to the text. So what we are expecting or seeing in this example is what I have mentioned quickly here. Changes text on tap or long press. Easiest way to handle gesture in SwiftUI. So with the tap or with the long press, it will change. With the tap, it will change. So whatever the scenario you want to run when user click or perform a tap gesture, you can write your logic here, and that's how simple it is. Now let's talk about the advanced gesture like drag, magnification, or rotation. So these allows the complex interactions like dragging, zooming, and rotating. And it's fairly straightforward. We have a circle here. So we have a position for a circle, which we are calling offset. So it's a CG size. It's basically a unit. Currently it's 0. So it's going to appear in the center. So let's enable this view first in our example here and comment the first one. So in our drag gesture, we are taking a look at how to do dragging. So we have a small circle with the foreground color as blue, frame 100 by 100, and the offset is where we are setting up the location. So it's 0 means the center of the screen, and we use dot gesture. So previously we have been using on tap gesture, on long press gesture. Here we use on tap just simply dot gesture. And inside the parenthesis is where we mention our advanced gestures. So here we have drag gesture, and on that we have two modifiers, that is on change and on end. So let's see how it works. When you click and drag it, that is when the on change modifier is getting called. Even if you move pixel distance, the on change is getting called. And when I release, it will come back to its own position because on and gesture is called when you release. And what at when you release, what happens is the location becomes 0. That is basically resetting the position to the center. But it starts with the location 0, and when you release it, it will come back to that same location. When you drag, on change is called continuously. Every pixel, for every pixel you are moving it, it's calling the on change gesture. It just gives you the coordinate where you actually have moved. So when I move it from here to here, this is the new location, and that is what gesture is having. We use translation to translate it to the value which is expected by our offset and just assign it to offset. So we are updating the location every time we are dragging even a pixel distance. And when we release it in the end, basically on end modification is called, and we are updating our offset, the location. And that is how easy it is. And so let's see this in action. We have enabled the view, and I have copy pasted our main view inside our window so that we can try running it. So this is our drag gesture. Let's run the application. And we can drag it and release it. To see this in action, I will just write a print. Dragged to offset. And let's run it now. So the moment you start dragging, it will print drag to what exactly position you are dragging it to, or you have dragged it to. So I click and drag and release. So you have dragged it to this X and Y coordinate. So this is one location. So I have just made one single move, but it was counting every pixel level or every next location wise. So this is our second location, and there is this third, and that is our fourth and the final position. And when we release, it will change the offset to 0. And that is it. When we released, let's check the and location and print that as well before we change the offset. So let's run it. And you can see when I drag, it has called the on change modifier about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. When I end it, it will have these many values returned, which basically says that you were dragged to -8 and y coordinate -37. And when you released, this was the time of the release, this is the location, and the start location was this, and the velocity also per second value, which is -9, -37, which is roughly about where we ended our drag. And it says -9, it should have been -8, but I guess when we release, it might have moved pixel more. The platform is DragGesture value platform. So it says this is the location you ended, which is the same location where our last drag was to. And that is it. That is what the drag gesture is about. And what we're expecting from this example is the circle will move when dragged and resets the position when released. So let's stop the application and let's take a look at the next one, that is zooming or magnification. So again, we use dot gesture and we are going to mention our magnification gesture here. Now again, when you magnify something or zoom in or zoom out, it will basically call while you are zooming in on change modifier. And when you release the zoomed in, no, that is when it calls on and modifier here. So we have a simple text which says pinch me, and we're going to zoom in this text. It has a font of flash title and we have the scale effect on it. So when we zoom in, on change is going to change the scale property, which is a state property. Initially it will start with 1.0. So let's put this in our example. I will enable this, comment that, and this is our magnification gesture example. Refreshing our preview, and this is pinch me. And the moment we will, it is starting with the scale 1.0. It's a CG float type, and on change you are going to zoom in. So what it does is when you zoom in, so we have to have the gesture, preview won't work. So let's run this application first. So when you zoom in, the it should look like you're zooming in. So what we are going to do is just increase the size of the text. To do that, we have to scale up, and how much you are zooming, that value is what we are going to assign to scale. It is also going to be of type CG float, so we'll scale that much as you're zooming in. So let's zoom in. So right now to zoom, you have to just press and hold Option key, and these two things, two circles will appear. All you have to do is just click and drag outside, so it will zoom in. If you drag inside, it will zoom out. And that is the length, how much you're zooming in, is what we are receiving here, and that is what we are providing the value to the scale property. As soon as it gets updated, it will increase the size of our text due to this scale effect taking the value, and it will increase its size by this much. So it will scale up the text. The moment you release the zoom in, it will call this modifier and will give it a scale 1.0, which is basically resetting the scale to 1.0. Basically, I'll have to just hold the Option key again to zoom in to have the two finger gesture, and that is all. When it comes to end, it's gonna just reset the reset the scale on release, and that is it. And the third advanced gesture we have is rotating. So rotating is, again, we use dot gesture modifier and mention our rotation gesture. When you will rotate, on change modifier will be called, and again, the while you are rotating, at every pixel rotation it's going to call this one, and how much you're rotating is the value you're going to get, and it's type angle, and that is why we have our state variable of type angle. So it's going to be at 0 angle. Let's preview it. So I'll enable rotation, comment this one, and refresh our view, stop our simulator. So right now it looks at 0 angle, and when you actually rotate it, that is when how much you're rotating is the value we're getting, and that angle is what we are giving it to our state property, and that is going to reflect in our rotation effect for our text. So it's going to rotate it with that angle, and let's run it. And to rotate, we again need two tap gesture. One tap will not work, so hold down the Option key and click and rotate. So you can rotate it, and it will be on every pixel rotation, it's just gonna give the value to the on change modifier, and that value is what we are assigning to the angle. The angle is going to update the text, and that's where we are able to see the rotation. When you release, the on ended is going to be called, and it's going to reset the location rotation to .0. That is how it looked initially. So I'm going to release it and it will get back to its 0 angle. And that is it. That is our third advanced gesture. What we are expecting is rotation text when using two-finger rotation gesture. Now, the last thing we have is the context menu. So let's enable this first. And let's preview it. I will stop the simulator, refresh. And you can see we have the context menu example here, where we have the message which we are showing. Context menu is something when you long press and hold. That is when you get a context menu. And this is something where we have the buttons, edit and delete. So we can use dot context menu modifier, and inside that we can give the content. So we have two buttons. One is edit and delete. Delete has the role destructive. Message will have, it's going to edit the message. When you click edit, it will change the title to editing. So when the state property message is changed to editing, it's just gonna reflect or refresh the whole view looking for the message which is used in the text, and it will update our text. If you press and hold, you will get the context menu, and you press delete, it's gonna say delete, since that is what we are assigning to our state property. And that is how easy it is to create context menu. And you have to long press for a quick action, and that is it. The context menu is not that popular actually, because by popular I mean it's not used very much because it's not intuitive for user. Because just by looking at the UI, I'm not sure whether I should long press, or it's not intuitive. There's no indication that I have to press and hold for and wait for the context menu to appear. Very much required in some scenarios. We can always have some other way to get the options, and so this is not preferred in production applications sometimes. And that is it. What we're expecting from the example is long press and open a menu with edit and delete option, and it uses the context menu modifier for defining actions. And here I've written the summary for all the things that we have seen. So we have seen the features like tap gesture, long press, drag, magnification, rotation, and context menu. And here I've written a sample code just for the revision purpose. If you'd like to come back, revise quickly, and just know what kind of modifier we use. And what it does is what I've mentioned here. So our tap gesture detects a simple tap, long press gesture detects a long press, and a drag gesture moves an element on screen. Magnification, zooming in out content. Rotation gesture rotates content using two-finger gesture. And context menu is going to just add a menu on long press and hold. And that is it actually. That is all there is that we need to know when it comes to gestures and context menu. I hope you find this video informative, and I'll connect with you in the next one.